Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate you all turning out. It's a great honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the inaugural Suiton Endowed Lecture here at the Appalachian School of Law. I'd particularly like to welcome Dr. Michael Karmis, our guest speaker today, and his colleague, Dr. Cray Luxbacher. This lecture series and the endowment that funds it is named for Anthony Suiton, who was the third dean here at the Appalachian School of Law. Tragically, on January 16th, 2002, Dean Suiton's life was cut short, along with the lives of Professor Thomas Blackwell and a first-year student here at ASL, Angela Dales. Those of us left behind after a great tragedy, well, we've just got to pick up the pieces and honor the memories of those we've lost. And so it's in that spirit that the Suiton Endowed Lecture Series was created. Describing the creation of an endowment and its mission can be a difficult proposition, particularly endowments that are created under such circumstances. So, as many of us were not fortunate enough to know Dean Suiton, we invited Margaret Lawton, Dean Suiton's wife at the time that he died, to say a few words about him and the endowment in his memory.
Hello, my name is Margaret Lawton, and I'm happy to talk with you about Tony Suiton, my late husband, and the L. Anthony Suiton Endowed Professorship, which was created in Tony's honor. Tony became an assistant faculty member at the Appalachian School of Law in January 1999. He later became the third dean of the law school. He was drawn to the public service mission of the school. Before coming to Appalachian, Tony had worked at the U.S. Department of Justice in several capacities. At the Appalachian School of Law, Tony combined his passion for public service with his love for teaching. He encouraged law students to take their responsibilities to the profession and to the community seriously. Students were drawn to Tony's gentle manner, his intellect, and his quiet wit. The L. Anthony Suiton Endowed Professorship was created in his memory after his death in 2002 and is funded by the generous donations of many, including faculty, staff, and students at the Appalachian School of Law. Each year, the Faculty Development Committee will determine the appropriate recipient for the award and the use for the award. The recipient will be someone who displays the qualities of scholarship, rational discourse, and a commitment to public service embodied by Tony. The Endowed Professorship is a wonderful tribute to Tony, and it means so much to our children, Henry and Clara, and to me, that the Appalachian School of Law continues to honor Tony and his commitment both to the school and to public service. Thank you.
And now I'd like to invite Professor Baker up to introduce our guest speaker for the day.
I just want to thank. Let's see here, is this on? I just want to thank everybody for coming today. And I look out and I see a lot of friendly faces and colleagues, and also just want to express, thanks to all you all for coming, as well as Dr. Karmis and his colleague for coming today. We really appreciate it. Dr. Karmis is the Stony Barker Professor of the Department of Mining and Minerals Engineering and the Director of the Virginia Center for Coal and Energy Research at Virginia Tech. He's been a faculty member of Virginia Tech since 1978. His expertise is in the areas of carbon sequestration, mine health and safety, ground control and mining systems, and the sustainable development of energy and mineral resources. He's authored or co-authored over 160 scientific papers and has directed 60 major research projects funded by federal and state agencies, foundations, and private companies. A professional engineer, Dr. Karmis is an active consultant to the mining industry, academic and research institutions, financial and legal firms. He served as the 2002 president of the Society for Mining, Metallurgy, and Exploration, and as the 2009 president of the American Institute of Mining, Metallurgical, and Petroleum Engineers. He is also an honorary member of the Mining, Metallurgical, and Petroleum Engineers Foundation and a distinguished member of SME, a fellow of the Institute of Quarrying, and a fellow of the Institute of Materials, Mining, and Minerals. He has received numerous awards and recognition by major scientific, educational, professional, and industrial organizations. And so we're thrilled to have Dr. Karmis here today. He's specifically going to talk about carbon sequestration, and this is obviously an extremely important project that he's working on right now because of what it means to the coal industry, and in this new, in the shift that we have where the EPA is going to require commercial carbon capture storage technology on any new coal-fired power plant. So what he's working on now is vital, not only to the coal industry, but it's vital to the country and the development of energy in this country. So we're just thrilled to have him, and we really appreciate it.
I've never had so many lawyers helping me here. That's a different gadget?
It's a different one that I showed you
All
at
right.
the beginning.
All right. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Actually, I was introduced very recently with more or less the same bio, and the chairman said, you wrote 150 papers, I haven't written even one. And I thought to myself, we should be counting how many people actually read these papers, not how many people papers we have sort of put together. But I appreciate the invitation to be here. I see a lot of friends in the audience here that I haven't seen for a while. I spend most of the afternoon. I have a lot of alumni and friends in the town of Grundy, so we spend some pleasant time checking up with everybody and so on. Sometimes when you put a title and then you start putting a presentation together, you realize quickly that you get away from the title. And since I'm going to put a lot of things together here, I thought I'll remind you, and you may not know Douglas Adams, but he was a very humorous British English author, and also he did a lot of science fiction novels, and he was very popular a few years back before he died. And he put a book together called Life, the Universe, and Everything. And I always thought that was a kind of good title because it means under this you can talk about anything you want. So I followed suit there then, and I changed my presentation title a little bit. So I want to talk about dirty coal, clean coal, shale gas, and a bunch of other stuff that I put it together, and I said everything. That's why I'm covered, so you cannot say that I have one title and I'm talking about something completely different. So what will I talk about today? I wanted to give you a little bit of introduction of Virginia Tech, the mining department, and the Virginia Center for Coal and Energy Research, so you can appreciate where I'm coming from. I want to talk to you about a specific and very unique research initiative that we're doing called AREAS, and I will tell you what that means. It is quite a unique research project in the country, really. Some of the thoughts we have in terms of what people refer to decarbonization of the economy, getting rid of the CO2, and where the CO2 proposed rule is putting us. I will talk to you a little bit about the research on carbon capture and storage and what that means in a way to Appalachian and to coal-fired generation. I want to talk to you just for a few minutes about some unique opportunities we may have in Virginia, and then talk to you about something that we can partner with the Appalachian School of Law, and this is to get together in offering some new programs focused on shale gas and unconventional gas, and that's something that we can both share and do it together. So, Virginia Tech, as you know, is the largest university in the state of Virginia. It's, of course, the land-grant university in Virginia. We're fairly large. We have 31,000 students. That's quite a large for a primarily technical university. We have a research portfolio which is close to $500 million, so we're pretty active. We offer 215 undergraduate and graduate programs. The university really believes on the mission of extension we have beyond teaching and research, and transforming knowledge into practice is part of the motto of the university. In fact, we have outreach offices in every county in the state of Virginia. The university also has a strategic document, and within that document, the most important items are energy, water, natural resources, and you go on, you can read the rest. So the topics that we're talking about here today are top priorities for the university and its strategic planning and positioning. Within the university, the biggest, in a way, college is that of the College of Engineering. It's nationally ranked college. It's a very large college where colleges of engineering are concerned. We have 13 departments, somewhere 330 academic faculty, 6,000 undergraduates and 2,000 postgraduate students. So this is, as you can appreciate, a significant college devoted to engineering. The college does close to $200 million of sponsor research. The college also has a strategic plan over and above the university, and the plan talks about regional, national, and global issues, and the number one or two issues there is energy and water. So you can see where I'm coming from when I say these are important issues. Within the College of Engineering is the mining department and a center that I'm associated to, together with Dr. Laxbacher, called the Virginia Center for Coal and Energy Research. Now, the mining department is a special department within the whole Virginia Tech infrastructure. And that is the first graduate of Virginia Tech ever was a graduate that actually completed the mining engineering course. This particular young fellow by the name of Caldwell walked every day from Craig County into Blacksburg and back, and that's where he went to school. Interestingly enough, to show that mining engineers are resilient, apparently he was fairly well off and wealthy by primarily selling molasses in North Carolina. So I'm not sure how the mining curriculum helped him, but he did something to give him a broad knowledge to go ahead and do other things as well. So let's talk a little bit about mining engineering at Virginia Tech. You can see can we dim these lights a little bit? Is that possible? Virginia Tech basically is the largest mining program in the country. There are 14 accredited mining departments in the US. So that's not an awful lot, right? And we are having more students, more graduates, more PhD programs, and more research than everybody else. And that's what these particular figures show. We basically graduate between, let's say, about 1/3 of all to 25% to 1/4 of all graduates in the US are actually graduates out of Virginia Tech every year. And those students go to all types of mining activities, commodities, east and west, north and south, surface and underground, coal, gold, copper, we cover them all. Within the mining department also, we have another activity which is a little bit different, which is the Virginia Center for Coal and Energy Research. Now, why that is different? There is many centers and institutes at Virginia Tech, but this particular entity is unique. And the reason is it was not developed because of Virginia Tech or a faculty member's activity. It was basically established by the Virginia legislature. So that particular center is a Commonwealth Center located at Virginia Tech. In other words, the legislature can decide one time to send it to UVA, right? See, it is basically their center under the university sort of umbrella. So the university has the management, but it is a Commonwealth Center. And Virginia, as well as some of our neighboring states, Kentucky, West Virginia, and others, after the oil embargo of 1973, felt very strongly about trying to do something more for energy independence. Oil prices were up, so energy was a big issue, but then coal was booming, and coal was very important for the Appalachian states. So that's how this center was created. And the mission of the center is very broad. When we talk about energy, in the Virginia Center for Coal and Energy, we're talking about all types of energy. We have basically a broad preview to do anything from renewables to nuclear to you name it, okay? It's part of our mission. One or two other important points of the mission of the center is to be a coordinating, let's say, entity within university for interdisciplinary education and research programs, but also to be a resource for the Commonwealth of Virginia and on the state, and working with other universities in the state and providing some across-the-board energy training. During Governor Kane's tenure, we also collected another charge, if you will, or mission. Tim Kaine decided it would be very important for the state to have an energy plan. It was called the Virginia Energy Plan. And our role at putting together that energy plan is to provide input and oversight that the plan is according to what it should be for the state of Virginia. Also at that time, the legislation allowed every subsequent governor to be able to modify that plan a little bit and adjust it based on that particular governor's interest and where the priorities would be. For example, during Governor McDonnell, the emphasis of the plan was basically to make Virginia the energy capital of the East Coast, and I'm sure some of you heard the governor talk about that. Our new governor also will have the opportunity to revise or update the energy plan, and we will help his agencies and the governor to do that. And I think the deadlines to complete this is in the fall of 2014. So having really our role on the energy plan gives us, in a way, an advisory role, if you will, to the state of Virginia and to the Commonwealth and the legislature about things important to the state when it comes to energy and energy development. So what are some of the research projects we do at the center? And I put a whole list here. You can really broadly talk about 2 or 3 major themes that some of them come under. We do work, obviously, on carbon management and sequestration, which I will talk about it a little bit in a minute. Under that, we're also looking at other environmental impacts of coal and energy production. We're involved in trying to create coal biomass briquettes and green fuels. We're trying to do reduction of greenhouse gases, which goes beyond CO2, for example, methane. We have actually 2 international projects funded by EPA. We just completed one in China and one in Turkey. So we're pretty much internationally oriented there. But being also a center for coal, not just energy, we are very concerned about the issues of coal mine health and safety. We have very large programs and research at the center aimed at coal mine health and safety. Dr. Laxbacher does quite a lot of work on that, and we have other people as well who spend time on that. Shale gas development is an important part of what we do in the center. And then to get a bit broader and a bit on a higher plateau, we are very much interested on international geopolitical issues and energy development. And we have had really some pioneering activities in the issue of mining, energy, and sustainable development. For example, we host every 2 years a big international meeting. We started that meeting. The first meeting, since you can tell from my accent, is not a Blacksburg accent. I can tell you the first meeting was done in a Greek island, and it was very successful. Then the second was in Germany, then we went to Australia, then back to Greece, back to Germany, and this time we're going to Canada. So this is a meeting that we started with 3 other universities and with great company participation and all that, and it is really a truly international meeting focused on people understanding sustainability and mining, because really, when you talk about mining, you're talking about depleting resources. So the question is, where is the sustainability on that? But the sustainability and contribution of mining is to provide the materials necessary for sustaining the quality of life and living that we all have. So whether you want it or not, whether you like mining or not, without mining you don't have anything. You don't have anything from an MRI to go to a hospital, from your phone to your computer to your battery. So everything comes from some raw material process that comes out of minerals. So that is an important thing to realize, that the sustainability in mining is a little bit different. Is providing resources to ensure that you have the sustainability, the quality of life, and so on that people want. Who are our major sponsors in terms of providing funding for us? Of course, the U.S. Department of Energy is a big one. Southern States Energy Board, which is a consortium of southern states and governors. National Institutes of Occupational Safety and Health, which is NIOS, US EPA. And we are unique in a way because we have a significant funding from companies and private foundations. In fact, currently, the center has $32 million of active projects. We were 38 last year. We dropped some projects, but we don't want to have too many and get lost in doing projects, and we don't have the opportunity to take time and do quality work. And what is unique is that our distribution in expenditures is 52% public, 48 private. This is fairly unique because most probably if you go around and see typical university expenditures, you will find 80% government and maybe 20% private. So this is actually a unique example nationally and of course at Virginia Tech. So I want to start by telling you one project that we have which is unique. It's called the Appalachian Research Initiative for Environmental Science, and that's what is the acronym of ARIS. And the whole idea of that was what actually the science really tells. And let me say why we need science-based approaches. On everything we do, if we put it down, at least from our point of view, being technical people, in terms of science and engineering, we open channels of communications. We can explain to people what we are doing and how. Regulators need to understand science in order to do science-based regulations. The discussion between stakeholders, most of the time includes scientific knowledge, outreach, exchange of information. So having the proper science and making decisions based on science is important for operators, is important for legislators, and is important for the public and the communities. And am I implying that we don't have that? And the answer is, in some cases, yes, we do not. Let's start with certain issues, both upstream and downstream issues of energy production, meaning from the mine to where the coal is used, right? Upstream would be the mine level, downstream is the power plant level. There have been all sorts of issues regarding coal in this case, and accusations that say, for example, when it comes to mining, that mining is a health hazard, produces also high risk of childbirth defects. We heard even that coal mining perpetuates poverty and in a way destroys the fabric of a community. It was suggested all sorts of things, and actually, and I put this little blurb down there, we hear the exact same thing right now for the shale gas industry. There was a study that said the other day, if you live near a gas well, your health will be impacted. There is studies that they say health issues with dust are horrendous and all that kind of stuff. And all these are the questions, are the studies which are properly documented. And the court of public opinion, as you know, is very, very important. It's not always based on science. I would urge you, if you want to see something to amuse yourself on the media, check the Colbert report on March the 6th. I'm sure you get all your news from Colbert, I do anyway. And he had quite a fun thing there with one of the oil companies that I thought you will find it amusing. So the question is, we were asked by companies, are we really doing this damage that people are saying? Because we have studies that they say we do not. And there is nothing out there in terms of independent scientific knowledge to say what it is. And that's what created the Appalachian Research Initiative for Environmental Science. I have an advisory board that includes a number of CEOs of coal and gas companies, utilities, the railroad, and others. So all these folks said, you know what, we're going to start a research program. We will fund it, but you guys in the university run it, because that's the only way we'll accept money, if we actually run the program 100%. We are very transparent in telling everybody this is an industry-funded project, but it is managed, run, operated by academic institutions. We decided that although we had interest on mining, gas, and utilities, the first area to look was coal mining, and we created that initiative with actually, originally it was $15 million commitment. It came after a year to $10 million because two of our big players bought the other two of our big players. So suddenly my team of so many companies shrank by two when Alpha bought the Massey Energy Company, and then Arch Company bought International Coal Group. So we started with 15, we ended up with over $10 million worth of investment in doing that. And what is important here is to notice the depth and breadth of the companies who are participating in this program. If you look at Alpha, Arch, Natural Resources Partners, TICO, Patriot Coal, Cliffs Natural Resources, and the two railroads, you have basically most of the eastern coal mining infrastructure participating in this program. We're actually doing some research with some other companies right now. So after we raise the money, and after we go to the commitment, we said we will invite other universities to participate. And what we did was we went to the other Appalachian-based universities and we said, okay, you have a great program, let's say in water science. That's who we want to partner with. So in other words, we selected our partners based on how we want to establish the best possible team. Whether we're doing environmental work with water, whether we do health work with dust, whether we do whatever. So the university who participate is West Virginia, Kentucky, Penn State, Ohio State, Pittsburgh, Marshall, the VIA College of Osteopathic Medicine in Blacksburg, and we're also work together with a group. It's basically a consulting group put together by Georgetown and Johns Hopkins, who are basically some of the two best public health schools, and we needed that kind of help to be able to be sure that we're really addressing the problems at the highest possible level. rather than going into individual projects. If we take all the projects we fund under this initiative, what you will find is that we are funding projects that deal with environmental management, particularly water issues and waste placement issues. We do projects that are focused towards a goal of zero impact mining systems. In other words, reduce the impacts that the mining has into the environment. And we also fund a number of projects talking about economic and social issues in the mining community. So if you put all these together under one title, this is basically sustainable development definitions. So that's what this particular project does. Overall in this project currently, we have 40 faculty members in 30 different academic departments that include everything from arts and science to engineering to law schools to everything you can think of. As of February 2014, now I should say, as maybe I didn't stress it earlier, the only mandate we have for people getting money from us is one thing that is actually the dream of academics: peer review publications. That's what we want. We don't tell you how to write it, where to publish it. But the outcome that we need out of that is peer review publications. Because only with peer review publications, some of you may or may not appreciate that, but only publications who appear in journals or magazines that other peers have read them and deem them worthy of being inclusion of that. That's what we mean by peer reviewed publications. Are the kinds of publications you can bring actually to most court of law as well as to the legislative process. When somebody wants to argue with EPA and says, well, we see what you're proposing, but our data says something different. EPA would say, what? Show me some peer review publications who saw that, because we're not going to trust your consultants, right? You paid for them. You follow what I'm saying? So peer review publications is a key issue. These are publications in journals that they have a peer review process to review the publications, make sure what they say is correct before they print it. So this is our outcome, and on the 2.5 years that have been involved in this, we have actually 70 peer review publications by all these folks that dealing with environmental and sustainability issues on mining. And all these publications are available not only to the companies, they're available to the regulators, to the community, because outreach is a significant part of what we do. We also hosted a major meeting in Charleston, West Virginia in 2013, and we're going to do another in 2015 with peer review volume of proceedings. So that were the outcomes. I don't want to bother you with too many details, and I will skip let me talk about this for 1 minute. EPA has a regulation that says in order to judge the quality and the health of a stream, what you need to do is to measure a property of the water called conductivity. Let's don't get too technical on this. And then that conductivity correlates with the health of the biota. So if that conductivity exceeds a certain value, right, that means that stream becomes impaired. And what we know is we see very healthy streams with conductivities well above the limit that EPA is saying. So our issue was to find out, is that true or not? And the answer is, we did 4 or 5 studies that actually saw conductivity goes up and down. You have very healthy biota at low conductivity, but also at very high conductivity. Why is that? Because you cannot really correlate these two activities that well, because they're not causal. In other words, the quality of the stream plays a role, right? The chemistry of the stream will dictate how conductivity will impact. Now, EPA called us for a meeting, and the scientists of EPA said, you are absolutely correct. All these other factors of the stream have to be taken into consideration. And we said, well, why don't you tell this to your regulators? Because the regulators are under pressure to provide one rule fits all. They cannot say, well, use this figure for a stream that has that chemistry and another and another and another. So in the court of public opinion and in legal cases, we can show you all sorts of case studies who contradict what EPA is saying. And that's what we wanted to put out and say, not that this is not a correlation, but there's so many factors. For example, we have streams here in this state and in West Virginia, who the biggest issue of conductivity, sort of pollution if you will, is not mining. Guess what it is? Straight piping, right? So, I mean, there is many other factors out there just to look at one thing in mining, and that's what these particular laws are tend to do. Economic impact in coal mining. We did a study, actually this was done out of Ohio State, who showed basically that mining and economic development go hand in hand, which we knew this because just look at the typical salary level that the mining industry is paying. The public health was a very interesting one. As I told you, there were some studies that show birth defects in areas close to the mines. And what happened was, out of the 6 hospitals that we looked back, going back to the original study who claimed that, there was no issue on 5 hospitals, but 1 hospital listed birth defects up to the sky, and that pulled all the data up the way. And when they went back to check, they found out that in this particular hospital, which is in West Virginia, they were actually marking a little mole or a little something here or there as defects. These are neonatal kind of marks, if you will. And that's not the standard practice, and that's not what you should do. That has been corrected since then, and if you take the correction, there is not really any correlation. So the point is, we try to put some science to all these questions and issues. And what basically this example did, in my view, and this research program, it is unique. It's not easy to get companies, including mining companies, to get together to provide that kind of money on a research project that they have absolutely zero control. And the only output of this research project is published stuff, right? So that's what makes it unique. And we thought this is a very important exercise, getting the mining industry into the, let's say, the scenario and the reality of getting not a regulatory license to operate, but a public license to operate. So I wanted to mention this to you because it's such a unique project. Let's move, that's what I said on the title and everything. Let's get into carbon. So everybody believes that CO2 is a horrible thing. Somebody gave me a book one time, actually Red Robertson, and CO2 was called the satanic gas. So I'm not sure I would agree with this, but everybody wants to do something with CO2. So a lot of people, including a group called the National Coal Council that has been put together by the Secretary of Energy, have different plans how to get there. So let's talk a little bit to see where we are. The plan was, let's do a step-by-step process.